The golden rays of the Zamundan sun cascaded through the grand palace windows, casting a warm glow over the sprawling halls adorned with marble columns, intricate tapestries, and gleaming statues of great kings past. The air was filled with the soft hum of music, the rhythmic drumbeats blending harmoniously with the laughter of nobles and royal attendants gathered in the grand ballroom. It was a day of celebration, one that had been long anticipated, the 21st birthday of Prince Akeem, heir to the throne of Zamunda. Dressed in regal robes embroidered with gold, Prince Akeem stood at the center of the room, receiving the warmest of smiles and well-wishes from courtiers and dignitaries alike. His father, King Jaffe Jaffer, a towering and imposing figure, stood beside him, exuding pride and strength. Queen Aeolian, elegant and composed, wore a gentle smile as she watched her son navigate through the ceremonial greetings. Akeem graciously accepted their compliments, his smile never wavering. Yet, deep down, he felt a growing sense of unease. While the day was meant to mark his transition into adulthood, the weight of his responsibilities as future king had begun to feel heavier than ever. It wasn't the attention that troubled him, it was the knowledge of what lay ahead. As the royal festivities continued, Akeem's heart remained distant, his thoughts elsewhere. He caught glimpses of his father, whose booming laughter filled the hall as he mingled with the elite of Zamunda, talking of the kingdom's prosperous future. His mother, ever poised, greeted guests with a grace Akeem had always admired. But even as he observed their joy, his mind returned to the troubling conversation he'd had with them just a few days prior. The celebration paused as King Jaffe stood tall at the front of the room, his voice commanding immediate silence. "My people," he began, his deep voice reverberating through the hall, "today is not just a celebration of my son's 21st birthday. It is a day to honor the future of Zamunda, for in our tradition, this marks a time of great responsibility." Akeem straightened, knowing what was coming next. The king continued, "As is our custom, it is now time for Prince Akeem to take the next step in his royal journey. Akeem, my son, you shall soon marry, as arranged by the royal council, to ensure the strength and continuity of our great kingdom." A ripple of applause swept through the hall, and many of the nobles nodded approvingly. Akeem, however, felt his heart sink. His arranged bride, a noblewoman from a prominent family in Zamunda, was a woman he had never met, a stranger who would soon become his wife. For as long as Akeem could remember, royal marriages had always been matters of politics rather than affection. His parents had made it clear that the future of Zamunda depended on strong alliances, and the marriage arranged for him was intended to cement one such bond. Yet, Akeem had always hoped that perhaps, somehow, he might be able to choose his own path, one based not on tradition but on love. Later that evening, after the formalities had ended and the guests had retired, Akeem found himself standing alone on the palace balcony, staring out over the lush, moonlit landscape of Zamunda. The cool night breeze did little to soothe the restlessness that churned within him. "What troubles you, my son?" came the familiar voice of his father, King Jaffe, who had silently joined him on the balcony. Akeem turned to his father, his expression somber. "Father, I understand the importance of our traditions, and I respect the responsibilities that come with my position. But this marriage... how can I marry someone I've never met?" King Jaffe's face remained unreadable as he listened, though a flicker of surprise crossed his eyes. "Akeem, you are not just a man. You are a prince, the future king of Zamunda. Our people expect you to uphold the customs that have preserved our kingdom for generations. This is the way it has always been. But must it always be this way? Akeem asked quietly, his voice tinged with frustration. Isn't there more to life than duty? More to love than obligation? The king regarded him carefully. You speak as though you do not trust the wisdom of the royal council. They have chosen a match that will strengthen the kingdom. It is not about love, Akeem. It is about legacy. Akeem turned back to the horizon, his thoughts swirling. Legacy. Duty. Tradition. These words had been ingrained in him since birth, but for the first time in his life, they felt like chains holding him back. Was he simply to follow the path laid out for him, even if it meant sacrificing his own happiness? His father's voice interrupted his thoughts once more. Akeem, you are a man now, and you must learn that the throne comes with sacrifices. You will understand in time. With that, King Jaffe left him alone with his thoughts, the weight of his words lingering in the cool night air. As Akeem gazed out over the kingdom that would one day be his to rule, he knew that his life was at a crossroads. Could he truly accept a future dictated by tradition, or was there another path, a path where he could follow his heart and find love on his own terms? The answer, Akeem realized, would come sooner than he expected. The grand halls of Zamunda's palace echoed with the soft whispers of attendants and the shuffle of royal guards as Prince Akeem made his way toward the royal chambers. His mind was troubled, weighed down by the heavy thoughts that had haunted him since his 21st birthday celebration. The idea of an arranged marriage, something he had known all his life would come, now felt stifling, like a trap closing around him. Akeem had grown up learning that duty to the throne was paramount, that the desires of the heart were secondary to the needs of the kingdom. But now, as he neared the time to fulfill his royal obligations, he found himself questioning everything. Could he truly live a life dictated by tradition, without the freedom to choose who he would spend it with? Taking a deep breath, Akeem entered the royal sitting room, where his parents, King Jaffe and Queen Aeolian, sat in quiet conversation. The king, as always, appeared regal and composed, his mere presence demanding respect. The queen, ever graceful, smiled warmly as she looked up at her son. Akeem, my son, King Jaffe greeted him. What brings you to us this evening? Akeem hesitated, his heart racing with the weight of what he was about to say. Father, mother, he began carefully, there is something I need to speak with you about. Something important. King Jaffe leaned back in his chair, his sharp eyes narrowing slightly. Go on, he prompted. Akeem stepped forward, standing tall, but the vulnerability in his voice was unmistakable. I've been thinking a lot about the future, about the marriage that's been arranged for me. Queen Aeolian exchanged a brief look with the king, her soft eyes full of understanding. We know this is a big step for you, Akeem, she said gently. But it's one that every royal must take. Your father and I had an arranged marriage, as did our parents before us. I understand that, mother, Akeem replied, choosing his words carefully. But I'm not sure I want to marry someone I don't know. I don't want to be bound to a life without love. The silence that followed was heavy. King Jaffe's expression grew stern, his eyes reflecting the seriousness of his position. Akeem, love is a luxury for ordinary men, but for a prince, for a future king, duty must come first. Akeem sighed, feeling the weight of his father's words but determined to speak his mind. I know that I am a prince, and I have a duty to Zamunda. But isn't it possible to be both, a man who follows his duty and a man who follows his heart? Must I sacrifice my happiness for the sake of tradition? King Jaffe's jaw tightened. You speak as though these are simple choices, Akeem. But what you must understand is that the future of Zamunda is not built on emotions. It is built on alliances, on strength, on legacy. The marriage we have arranged for you ensures the stability of our kingdom. But father, I don't even know this woman. How can I pledge my life to someone I've never met? Akeem's voice was filled with frustration now. I want to marry for love, not just for the kingdom. I want someone who sees me for who I am, not for my title. Queen Aeolian's expression softened as she watched her son struggle with the dilemma that had plagued many before him. Your father is right, Akeem, she said, her voice gentle but firm. But I also understand your heart's desire. Love is a precious thing, and I would never want you to live without it. Yet, as future king, your choices affect more than just yourself. Akeem's gaze dropped to the floor, his hands clenched at his sides. I don't know if I can go through with this marriage. I don't know if I can live a life that doesn't feel like mine. King Jaffe stood abruptly, his towering figure casting a shadow over his son. And what do you propose, Akeem? He asked, his tone filled with a mixture of frustration and concern. You would reject the traditions that have kept this kingdom strong for centuries. Akeem raised his head, meeting his father's gaze with steady resolve. I want to find love on my own terms. I want the freedom to choose who I will spend my life with. I want to experience the world beyond Zamunda and see what's out there for myself. The room was silent once more, the weight of Akeem's words hanging in the air. King Jaffe's stern face betrayed nothing, but Queen Aeolian watched her son with a quiet understanding. Finally, King Jaffe spoke, his voice low but commanding. You are asking for a great deal, Akeem. To abandon the path set before you is no small thing. I'm not asking to abandon my duty, Akeem said quickly. I will always serve Zamunda. But I cannot serve the kingdom fully if I feel trapped in a life I didn't choose. Please, Father, give me the chance to find love, on my own terms. King Jaffe's expression remained unreadable for a moment longer, but Queen Aeolian placed a hand on her husband's arm. Perhaps we should give him this chance, Jaffe, she said softly. Let him see the world, let him find what he's looking for. If he returns, ready to take on the responsibilities of the throne, we will know his heart is truly content. The king looked at his wife, then back at his son. The tension in the room was palpable, but Akeem could see the battle in his father's eyes, the conflict between the weight of tradition and the love for his son. At last, King Jaffe let out a heavy sigh. Very well, Akeem. You will have your chance. Akeem blinked in surprise, scarcely believing his ears. You may travel abroad, King Jaffe continued, and search for the love you desire. But know this, your time is not infinite. If you cannot find what you seek, you will return to Zamunda and fulfill your duty as prince. Is that understood? Akeem's heart swelled with gratitude and relief. Yes, father. Thank you. The king nodded solemnly. Do not forget who you are, Akeem. The world outside these walls is very different from the one you know. I won't forget, Akeem promised, bowing his head respectfully. As Akeem left the room, his thoughts were racing. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with unknowns, but for the first time, he felt the thrill of possibility. He had been given a chance to find love, not as Prince Akeem of Zamunda, but as just Akeem. The journey was only beginning. The morning sun bathed the lush, golden landscapes of Zamunda, and the palace courtyard buzzed with activity. Attendants rushed to and fro, preparing for the unexpected but significant departure of the crown prince. This was no ordinary trip. Prince Akeem was about to embark on a journey that could change the course of his life, and possibly the future of the kingdom. Inside the royal palace, Akeem stood in his chambers, gazing around at the opulence that had surrounded him since birth. The walls were adorned with intricate tapestries, statues of great warriors, and priceless works of art. The finest silk curtains framed the large windows that overlooked the vast Zamundan plains. It was a life of unparalleled luxury and comfort, a life he would soon leave behind. Semmi, his faithful and ever-loyal valet, entered the room with an air of both excitement and trepidation. "Your Highness," he said, bowing slightly, "the final preparations are complete. Our luggage has been packed, and the royal jet is ready for departure." Akeem turned from the window, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Thank you, Semmi," he replied, his tone distant as if still grappling with the reality of his decision. "Are you ready for this?" Semmi's eyes widened slightly at the question. While he had always been a dutiful companion to the prince, the thought of leaving behind the comforts of Zamunda, and entering the chaotic world of America, filled him with nervous anticipation. "Well, Your Highness, I must admit, New York City is quite different from Zamunda. But I am, as always, at your service." Akeem smiled at his valet's hesitation. "I appreciate your loyalty, Semmi. But I have to remind you, once we're there, we will not be royalty. We are going to blend in, live among the people, and experience life without titles. We will be just like everyone else." Semmi's brow furrowed. "Live like everyone else? No servants? No luxurious accommodations?" The thought clearly troubled him. "Your Highness, if I may be so bold, are we certain this is the best course of action? Zamunda offers such comfort, such refinement." Akeem laughed softly. "I know, Semmi, it sounds daunting. But that's exactly why we must do this. I need to understand what it's like to live outside of the royal palace. To experience life without all the luxuries we take for granted. And most importantly, I want to find someone who loves me for who I am, not because I am a prince." Semmi gave a reluctant nod, clearly still grappling with the idea. "Very well, Your Highness. I will follow wherever you lead." The time had come. King Jaffe and Queen Aeolian stood at the entrance to the palace, watching as Akeem and Semmi approached the royal jet. The air was filled with a mix of pride, worry, and hope. Though King Jaffe had agreed to his son's journey, the thought of Akeem venturing into the unknown world of New York City still troubled him. His kingdom, after all, depended on the decisions his son would make in the coming months. Akeem turned to his parents, his heart heavy with the knowledge that this departure was more than just a physical journey. It was a step into a world where he would have to navigate without the safety of his royal identity. His mother, Queen Aeolian, took his hands in hers, her eyes filled with maternal warmth and concern. Akeem, remember that no matter where you go, you carry the heart of Zamunda with you. Be careful, and follow your instincts. I will, mother, Akeem said softly, his voice full of emotion. King Jaffe placed a hand on Akeem's shoulder, his expression more stern, though a flicker of emotion crossed his eyes. This is not a decision I took lightly, Akeem. You must return ready to fulfill your role. The future of Zamunda depends on it. Akeem met his father's gaze with a firm nod. I understand, father. I promise I will return, and when I do, I will be ready. With a final bow to his parents, Akeem boarded the jet, followed closely by Semmi. The doors closed behind them, and the engines roared to life, signaling the start of their journey. As the jet lifted off, Akeem gazed out the window, watching as the palace and the familiar landscape of Zamunda grew smaller and smaller beneath him. For the first time in his life, Prince Akeem was leaving behind everything he had ever known. Hours later, the royal jet descended over the sprawling urban landscape of New York City. From above, Akeem could see the grid of streets, the towering skyscrapers, and the steady flow of traffic. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The vibrant, chaotic energy of the city seemed to pulse beneath them, a stark contrast to the tranquility and order of Zamunda. Semmi, seated beside him, looked out the window with wide eyes. Oh my, Your Highness. I mean, Akeem. This place is extraordinary. And loud. Akeem smiled, feeling a strange sense of anticipation building within him. Yes, Semmi. It's a different world. But this is exactly where we need to be. The jet landed at a private airstrip, and soon Akeem and Semmi were stepping out into the fresh, crisp air of New York. Their royal attire had been replaced by more casual clothing, an effort to blend in with the everyday citizens of Queens. No longer would they be recognized as royalty, they were just two humble men in a foreign land, searching for something that neither wealth nor status could provide. As they stepped into a waiting taxi, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The bustling streets of Queens stretched out before them, alive with noise and movement. Cars honked, pedestrians hurried past, and the sounds of the city seemed to swallow them whole. It was overwhelming, disorienting, and exhilarating all at once. The taxi drove them through the heart of Queens, where towering buildings loomed overhead and vibrant street markets lined the sidewalks. People of all walks of life moved through the streets, businesspeople rushing to work, families enjoying a day out, street vendors calling out to passers-by. The city was alive with energy, and Akeem felt a thrill of excitement course through him. "Welcome to New York," the taxi driver said with a grin, glancing at Akeem and Semmi in the rearview mirror. "Where are you two from?" Akeem smiled, exchanging a glance with Semmi. "We're just visiting from, out of town." The driver chuckled. "Well, you've come to the right place. There's no city like this one." As the taxi continued its journey through the streets, Akeem looked out the window, taking in the sights and sounds of a city that was as foreign to him as another world. But despite the chaos, he felt a sense of liberation, a freedom that came with leaving behind the expectations of royalty and stepping into the unknown. This was it, the beginning of a new chapter in his life, a journey to discover love, freedom, and perhaps, a new sense of purpose. Akeem couldn't help but smile, feeling more alive than he had in years. New York City, with all its noise and chaos, had just become the stage for the most important adventure of his life. The air in Queens had a distinctly different feel from the palace halls of Zamunda. The bustling streets, the rumbling of the subway, and the constant hum of life around every corner were an ever-present backdrop as Akeem and Semmi stood outside their modest apartment building. The brick facade was far from the opulence of the royal palace. Here, there were no grand pillars or lush gardens, just the raw, lived-in charm of the city. Akeem looked up at the five-story building, a slight grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. It was all part of the experience he sought, a life devoid of luxury, where he could walk among the people unnoticed and unburdened by his royal title. Semmi, however, did not share in the prince's enthusiasm. "You're high, Akeem," Semmi corrected himself, catching a knowing glance from the prince. "I understand the desire for simplicity, but this place is, how shall I put it, quite minimal." Akeem chuckled. "That's exactly the point, Semmi. We must blend in, remember? No one here can know we are from Zamunda. We are just like them now." With a resigned sigh, Semmi followed Akeem into the building, where they were greeted by the landlord, a middle-aged woman named Mrs. Jenkins. She looked at the two men with curiosity, her hands on her hips, as if sizing them up. "Y'all must be the new tenants," she said, her voice tinged with suspicion but mostly warmth. "Well, this ain't no palace, but it'll do. Just don't go making too much noise. I don't tolerate parties or any messin' about." Akeem gave her a polite smile and a respectful nod. "Thank you, Mrs. Jenkins. We will be good neighbors, I assure you." Semmi, always one to notice the finer details, shifted uncomfortably as he glanced around the apartment's humble interior. The faded wallpaper, the creaky floorboards, and the faint smell of the city's grit left him feeling out of place. But Akeem, determined to make this new life work, settled in with ease. The next morning, Akeem and Semmi ventured out into the heart of Queens. The streets were a kaleidoscope of cultures, food vendors lining the sidewalks, each offering a different aroma, children playing ball games in the park, and people from every corner of the globe bustling about with their daily routines. It was a vibrant, energetic community, so different from the orderly life in Zamunda. As they walked down the busy street, Akeem was taken by the sheer diversity of people around him. He watched as a family spoke in rapid Spanish on one side of the road, while an elderly woman sold handmade trinkets from a small stand. The lively sounds of reggae music floated from a nearby storefront, and the smells of fried food and spices wafted through the air. It was a sensory overload, but Akeem was fascinated by it all. Semmi, look at this place, Akeem said with a broad smile, taking in the sights. So many people, all living together in harmony. This is what I wanted to experience, the real world. Semmi, however, was not as enthusiastic. He wrinkled his nose as they passed a vendor selling hot dogs, muttering under his breath about the unfamiliar smells. Yes, Your Highness, but perhaps we could have chosen a place with better ventilation and less street food. Ignoring Semmi's discomfort, Akeem approached a group of young men who were sitting outside a small bodega, chatting in rapid slang. He had decided that in order to truly blend in, he needed to start interacting with the locals. He greeted them with a warm smile, hoping to make a connection. "Good morning, my friends," Akeem said, his royal accent still very much intact. "I am new to this area and would like to learn more about your customs." The men stopped their conversation, looking up at Akeem with raised eyebrows. One of them, a guy wearing a Yankees cap turned backward, gave Akeem a long, skeptical look before bursting into laughter. "Yo, man, where you from? You talkin' like you straight outta a Shakespeare play or something." Akeem blinked, unsure of what he had said wrong. "I assure you, I am quite genuine in my request. I merely wish to learn more about life here in Queens." The group exchanged amused glances, clearly entertained by Akeem's formal speech. "Yo, you gotta loosen up, bro," one of them said with a grin. "You talk too fancy for this neighborhood." Akeem nodded, taking the advice in stride, though it was clear he had much to learn about fitting in. Semmi, standing awkwardly behind him, watched the interaction with a mix of horror and embarrassment. Over the next few days, Akeem struggled to adjust to the customs and culture of Queens. He attended local community events, tried the different street foods, and even attempted to take the subway. But no matter how hard he tried, it seemed that his upbringing in Zamunda had left him ill-prepared for the fast-paced, gritty world of New York City. One particularly challenging experience came when Akeem and Semmi attempted to grocery shop at a local market. Used to being served the finest ingredients on silver platters, Akeem found himself baffled by the overwhelming number of choices on the shelves. The idea of picking his own food, let alone cooking it, was a foreign concept. Semmi, of course, was equally out of his element. As they stood in the aisle of the market, surrounded by cans of beans, boxes of cereal, and produce, Semmi sighed dramatically. How do these people survive? There are too many options. In Zamunda, we were never burdened with such decisions. Akeem couldn't help but laugh at Semmi's exaggerated distress. "Semmi, this is part of the adventure. We are here to live like everyone else. If we must choose our own groceries, then so be it." Despite their best efforts, blending in with the vibrant, diverse community of Queens proved harder than Akeem had imagined. His formal speech and royal demeanor made him stand out in almost every interaction, and the customs of this urban jungle seemed entirely foreign. Yet, in each struggle, Akeem found a new sense of freedom. No one here knew he was a prince, and that anonymity, though challenging, was exactly what he needed to find himself. As the days passed, Akeem slowly began to immerse himself in the community. He attended neighborhood gatherings, where he listened to the stories of the people, fascinated by the rich tapestry of cultures that made up this corner of the world. He found joy in the simple pleasures, chatting with the local barber, helping an elderly woman carry her groceries, and even attempting to play basketball with the neighborhood kids, though his lack of skill became the subject of much laughter. Though Akeem's journey in Queens was only just beginning, it was clear that the path to love, acceptance, and self-discovery would be filled with challenges. But with each new day, the prince felt himself growing, learning to see the world through different eyes and embracing the uncertainty that came with stepping out of the royal shadow. In the heart of Queens, Akeem was no longer just a prince. He was a man searching for his place in the world. The adjustment to Queens had been challenging enough, but Akeem's next step in his journey to humility took an even more drastic turn when he and Semmi found themselves donning the uniforms of the local fast food restaurant, McDowell's. To maintain their cover as exchange students and fully immerse themselves in the everyday lives of regular New Yorkers, they needed jobs, and what better way to experience the working-class life than by flipping burgers? The scene in the small, greasy kitchen was a far cry from the lavish banquets Akeem was accustomed to back in Zamunda. As he tied on his apron, he couldn't help but notice the thick scent of fried food that seemed to cling to everything. Semmi, on the other hand, was visibly horrified, clutching a mop with an air of complete disbelief. "Your Highness," Semmi began, his voice filled with desperation as he glanced around the kitchen, "this is madness. We are royalty, not—" He gestured dramatically to the grill where fries sizzled and burgers were flipped, "this." Akeem, ever composed, gave Semmi a patient smile. "Semmi, we must embrace this experience. Remember, no one can know who we are. This is our chance to live like everyone else and find the true meaning of life and love." Semmi sighed heavily, casting a mournful glance at the mop. If only that meaning didn't involve cleaning. Their new boss, Cleo McDowell, was a no-nonsense, fast-talking man who took pride in running his restaurant efficiently, even if he did spend most of his time bragging about how McDowell's was nothing like McDonald's, despite the eerily similar menus and decor. He eyed Akeem and Semmi skeptically as they stood awkwardly in their new uniforms. "You boys ever worked in fast food before?" Cleo asked, arms crossed over his chest. Akeem, always earnest, responded, "Not exactly, but I am eager to learn. I have much experience in organization and managing people." His royal undertones were clear, but Cleo seemed too busy to notice or care. "Well, you better learn fast. I ain't payin' y'all to stand around lookin' pretty. Akeem, you're on the grill. Semmi, you're on mop duty. Let's move it." Akeem's first day on the job was a comedic disaster from the start. The intricacies of working the grill seemed far more complicated than any royal duties he had ever undertaken. His attempts to flip burgers with the finesse of a chef resulted in charred patties, smoke rising from the grill, and a lot of unimpressed looks from his coworkers. "Yo, you burnin' those burgers, man," a fellow employee shouted, shaking his head as he passed by with a tray of fries. Akeem quickly apologized, desperately trying to salvage the situation. His royal instincts were all about perfection, but the fast-paced nature of McDowell's was far from the meticulous world of palace kitchens. Meanwhile, Semmi's day was no less disastrous. Armed with the mop, he tried to maintain some semblance of dignity, but it wasn't long before he managed to slip on the freshly mopped floor, sending himself and a bucket of soapy water crashing to the ground. The scene drew a round of laughter from the customers seated nearby. "I will never recover from this humiliation," Semmi muttered, dragging himself off the floor as his soaked uniform clung to him. Despite the chaos, Akeem was determined to learn. He focused on the small details, watching how his co-workers moved with practiced ease. As the day went on, he began to get the hang of the grill, though his burgers still came out slightly more well done than necessary. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress that in the days that followed, Akeem and Semmi slowly adapted to their new roles. Akeem found an odd sense of fulfillment in doing something so different from his royal duties. There was a certain rhythm to the work, a simplicity that contrasted with the complex politics of Zamunda's court. He liked being part of something bigger, where titles didn't matter, only the quality of your work. However, the more he worked at McDowell's, the more Akeem began to realize just how different his life in Queens was from everything he had ever known. The fast food job wasn't just a temporary cover, it was a window into a world he had never truly understood. Here, people worked hard for their living, spending long hours on their feet just to make ends meet. They weren't born into privilege, and they didn't have the luxury of a royal destiny awaiting them. One evening, after a long shift, Akeem sat in the small break room, his uniform stained with grease and his body aching from the day's work. Semmi, still sulking from yet another mop-related mishap, collapsed into the chair next to him. "Is this what people in this country do every day?" Akeem asked, more to himself than to Semmi. "They work so hard, yet they seem so content." Semmi, exhausted and defeated, shook his head. "I do not understand it either, Your Highness. But one thing is certain, I am not cut out for manual labor." Akeem chuckled softly. "Perhaps it's not about what you do, but how you feel when you do it. These people may not have much, but they have something I've never had before: freedom. They choose their own path, their own destiny. And I want that too." Despite the challenges, Akeem's time at McDowell's became a key part of his transformation. He learned not only about hard work and humility but also about himself. The vast differences between his royal upbringing and life in Queens became more apparent with each passing day. In Zamunda, everything had been laid out for him: his future, his marriage, his duties. But here, in this small, greasy kitchen, Akeem was free to make his own choices, however small they might seem. Of course, the comedic mishaps didn't stop. Semmi continued to struggle with even the simplest of tasks, from spilling milkshakes to setting off the fryer alarms. But through it all, Akeem maintained his focus. He had come to Queens to find love, but along the way, he was discovering something even more important: who he truly was beyond the title of prince. The experience was humbling, and with each burger flipped and mop dragged across the floor, Akeem felt himself growing in ways he had never expected. Life in Queens wasn't easy, but for the first time, Akeem felt like he was in control of his own destiny, and perhaps, just perhaps, that would lead him to the love he sought. The steady hum of McDowell's during the lunch rush had become a familiar backdrop to Akeem's new life. As he worked the grill, the clamor of the kitchen and the bustling customers outside no longer overwhelmed him the way it had in the beginning. He had grown accustomed to the chaos and had even started to enjoy the simplicity of it all. But on this particular day, something, or rather, someone, shifted his entire focus. It happened during the midday rush. Akeem was working the grill when he first caught sight of her, Lisa McDowell, the daughter of Cleo, the restaurant owner. She was in the front of the restaurant, helping her father manage the operations with the kind of natural authority and grace that Akeem found instantly captivating. She was different from anyone he had ever met, strong, intelligent, and independent, with an undeniable warmth in her smile that lit up the entire room. For a moment, Akeem stopped what he was doing, staring in awe at Lisa as she interacted with customers and staff alike. Her energy was infectious, her laughter soft but sincere. She was completely at ease in this environment, moving with the confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was and where she belonged. "Watch the burgers, man," one of his co-workers shouted, snapping Akeem out of his trance just as the grill began to smoke. Akeem quickly turned back to his task, but his thoughts remained on Lisa. He had never met someone so real. She was the embodiment of everything he admired: intelligence, kindness, and strength. And though they had only shared a few brief glances, Akeem knew, deep down, that he had to get to know her. Later that day, while on his break, Akeem found himself sitting at a table in the corner of the restaurant, watching Lisa as she helped her father behind the counter. Semmi, exhausted from yet another mop-related incident, slumped into the seat across from him, oblivious to Akeem's distraction. "Your Highness, this life is unbearable. How much longer must we endure this indignity?" Semmi groaned, resting his head in his hands, but Akeem wasn't listening. His gaze was fixed on Lisa as she handled a difficult customer with patience and poise. The more he watched her, the more he found himself drawn to her. There was something about her spirit, her independence, that resonated with him deeply. In a way, she embodied everything he had been searching for: someone who was true to themselves, who lived life on their own terms. "Semmi," Akeem said suddenly, "I must speak to her." Semmi looked up, confused. "Who?" "That woman over there." Akeem nodded, his determination growing. "Yes. She is unlike anyone I have ever met." Semmi glanced over at Lisa, then back at Akeem, his expression incredulous. "Your Highness, I implore you to reconsider. She is the daughter of a fast food restaurant owner." "Surely you don't mean—" "I do," Akeem interrupted, his tone firm. "Titles and wealth mean nothing here. If I am to find true love, it must be with someone who sees me for who I am, not what I am." Semmi sighed, knowing there was no changing Akeem's mind. "Very well, but I fear this may only lead to more complications." Akeem's chance to speak to Lisa came sooner than expected. As he finished his shift, he noticed Lisa gathering some supplies in the back room. With Semmi's reluctant encouragement, Akeem approached her, nerves buzzing in his chest. "Excuse me, Miss McDowell." Akeem began, his voice steady but polite. Lisa turned, her eyes meeting his with a curious smile. "Yes. Can I help you?" For a brief moment, Akeem found himself at a loss for words. He had spoken to diplomats, rulers, and noblewomen, yet standing before Lisa, he felt strangely out of his depth. There was something so genuine about her, something that disarmed him entirely. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Akeem, he said, offering his hand. I've been working here for a few weeks now. Lisa shook his hand, her smile widening. Oh, yes, I've seen you around. Nice to officially meet you, Akeem. I'm Lisa. Her voice was soft but confident, and Akeem found himself hanging on every word. He couldn't help but notice the way her eyes sparkled with curiosity and intelligence, the way she carried herself with such natural grace. Thank you, Akeem replied, feeling more relaxed now that the conversation had begun. I must say, you and your father run a very impressive establishment. Lisa laughed, a light, musical sound that made Akeem's heart skip. Well, we try. It's not easy, but we've built something here that we're proud of. Hard work, you know. Akeem nodded, though he couldn't help but think how different their worlds were. Lisa had worked for everything she had, while he had been born into luxury. Yet, in this moment, none of that seemed to matter. She was everything he had been searching for, kind, strong, and completely unpretentious. Over the next few days, Akeem found himself drawn to Lisa more and more. They spoke whenever they had the chance, and each conversation deepened his admiration for her. She was passionate about her work, about making a difference in her community, and Akeem admired the way she cared so deeply for those around her. But as his feelings for Lisa grew, so did the weight of the secret he carried. Akeem knew that he couldn't continue to pretend to be someone he wasn't. He was falling for Lisa, but she had no idea who he truly was. If she found out he was the Prince of Zamunda, would she still see him the same way? Or would she, like so many others, only see the title? The dilemma weighed heavily on Akeem's heart. How could he win Lisa's love without revealing his true identity? And if he did reveal the truth, would she ever be able to love him for who he really was, and not for his wealth or status? As Akeem struggled with these questions, his feelings for Lisa continued to grow. Every time he saw her, he was reminded of why he had come to Queens in the first place, to find someone who could love him for himself, not for his crown. But as much as he wanted to believe that Lisa was that person, he knew that the truth would have to come out eventually. One evening, as they walked through the neighborhood together after their shifts, Akeem decided to take a chance. The warm glow of the streetlights illuminated Lisa's face as she laughed at one of his jokes, and Akeem felt a surge of affection for her. Lisa, he said, his voice more serious than before, I have to tell you something. Lisa looked at him, curiosity in her eyes. What is it? Akeem hesitated for a moment, the weight of his secret pressing down on him. But before he could say more, they were interrupted by a group of rowdy passers-by, and the moment was lost. Akeem sighed inwardly. The time would come, he told himself. But for now, he would have to keep his true identity hidden a little while longer, and hope that, when the truth finally did come out, Lisa would still see him for the man he truly was. The days turned into weeks, and as Akeem continued to navigate his new life in Queens, he found a rhythm in his routine. Working at McDowell's had its challenges, but every shift was made infinitely brighter by the presence of Lisa. Each day, They would share moments during their breaks, small, stolen snippets of laughter and conversation that felt like a world away from the royal expectations that had once dictated his life. It was during one of these breaks that Akeem learned more about Lisa's dreams. They sat together on a bench outside the restaurant, enjoying the crisp autumn air. Akeem watched as she animatedly spoke about her aspirations of opening a community center for the youth in her neighborhood. Her eyes sparkled with passion as she described her vision, and Akeem couldn't help but admire her dedication. "I want to create a space where kids can learn and grow," she said, her hands gesturing wildly as she spoke. "A place where they can feel safe and explore their interests. Art, sports, music, whatever speaks to them. I just think every child deserves that kind of opportunity." Akeem nodded, genuinely impressed. "That's a wonderful dream, Lisa. You have such a kind heart." Lisa smiled, a blush creeping onto her cheeks. "Thanks. It's just something I've always wanted to do. My parents have always emphasized the importance of giving back to the community." As she spoke, Akeem felt a warmth spreading through him. It was refreshing to hear someone talk so passionately about their values and dreams. In his world, conversations often revolved around duty, titles, and power. But here, with Lisa, he was discovering a different kind of nobility, a nobility of spirit. Over the next few weeks, Akeem made it his mission to learn everything he could about Lisa. He discovered her love for music, how she often sang while working, her favorite bands, and even her guilty pleasure for cheesy romantic comedies. They spent hours sharing stories and laughing, forming a bond that felt increasingly genuine. One evening, while they cleaned up the restaurant after a busy shift, Akeem picked up a mop, playfully imitating a dance move he'd seen in one of Lisa's favorite movies. She burst into laughter, her eyes sparkling in the fluorescent light of the kitchen. "Stop. You're terrible at this," she teased, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. "If you keep that up, you'll make a fool of yourself in front of the customers." "Perhaps," Akeem replied, unable to contain his own laughter. "But I must practice. I could be a star in a musical one day." "Oh really? What's your stage name going to be?" Lisa asked, her smile infectious. "Akeem the Great," he declared dramatically, bowing with a flourish. Lisa clapped her hands in delight. "Akeem the Great, huh? I like it. Just make sure you don't start charging for autographs before we even make it big." As Akeem spent more time with Lisa, he found himself falling deeper for her. Each shared moment was a reminder of how different she was from anyone he had known back in Zamunda. Lisa was genuine, unpretentious, and fiercely independent. She challenged him in ways he had never expected, encouraging him to open up about his feelings and thoughts, but with every passing day, the weight of his secret loomed larger. The fear of revealing his true identity gnawed at him, intensifying as he became more attached to Lisa. What if she didn't accept him? What if she saw him as just a prince playing at being ordinary? One evening, as they walked through a nearby park, the leaves crunching underfoot, Akeem's heart raced. They had just finished a long day at the restaurant, and the golden sunset cast a warm glow over everything. "Do you ever think about the future?" Akeem asked, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. Lisa glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. Of course. I think about my goals, my dreams, but I also think about family. I want to build a life with people I love around me. Family means everything to me. Akeem's chest tightened at her words. What kind of family do you envision? Honestly, she said, her tone light but earnest. I want a big family. Lots of kids running around, chaos everywhere, laughter. I want to share my life with someone who understands my values and shares my passion for making a difference. Her vision was intoxicating, and Akeem felt a pang of longing. He could see it so clearly, a life filled with love, laughter, and purpose. But could he be the one to fulfill that dream? Could he reveal himself as the prince he truly was and still be worthy of such a life with someone as remarkable as Lisa? As they continued their walk, Akeem's heart raced at the thought of confessing his true identity. He had never felt this way about anyone before. The prospect of losing Lisa terrified him. Would she still want to be with him if she knew he was a prince? The fear of rejection gripped him tightly. Just then, a couple walked by, hand in hand, laughing and teasing each other. Akeem's gaze followed them, and he felt a sudden surge of jealousy. They were so carefree, so free to love without the constraints of expectation. Hey, are you okay? Lisa asked, her voice breaking through his thoughts. She reached out, placing a comforting hand on his arm. Yes, he replied quickly, forcing a smile. I was just thinking about how lucky we are to have each other in our lives. Lisa smiled softly, her eyes searching his. I'm really glad we met, Akeem. You've become an important part of my life. Her words filled him with warmth, but they also deepened his internal struggle. The connection they shared felt so real, yet he knew that a single revelation could shatter everything they had built together. As they walked back to the apartment, Akeem's heart was heavy with the knowledge that he had to make a choice soon. Could he risk everything for a love he had never dared to dream was possible? Or would he remain hidden in the shadows, a prince in disguise, forever wondering what could have been? As the weeks passed, Akeem reveled in his new life, one filled with laughter, friendship, and the thrill of falling in love with Lisa. However, beneath the surface of his burgeoning happiness, Semmi struggled to adapt to their modest existence. The more Akeem embraced the simplicity of his surroundings, the more Semmi yearned for the luxury they had left behind. One evening, after a long shift at McDowell's, Akeem returned to their small apartment to find Semmi poring over a menu from an upscale restaurant. The soft glow of the dim kitchen light highlighted Semmi's distressed features, and the contrast to their current living conditions was striking. Semmi, what are you doing? Akeem asked, raising an eyebrow. I'm planning our dinner, Semmi replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I thought we could treat ourselves to something nice tonight, like steak or lobster. You know, to celebrate our new lives. Akeem's heart sank. Semmi, we can't afford that. We're supposed to be living like ordinary students, remember? But we don't have to live like this. We're princes. Semmi exclaimed, his voice rising in frustration. This is no way for a royal heir to live. You should be enjoying your life, not working in a fast food joint. Akeem ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. I am enjoying my life, Semmi. You're missing the point. This is what I wanted, freedom from expectation, the chance to be myself. It's about finding love, not pretending to be someone I'm not. Semmi's shoulders slumped, the fight leaving him. I can't help but feel that we're meant for more than this. It's hard to see you adjust while I feel like I'm losing everything that made us who we are. As they sat in silence, Akeem could see Semmi's internal battle. The opulence of Zamunda still tugged at him, a constant reminder of the life they had left behind. But for Akeem, the lavish surroundings and trappings of royalty felt suffocating, a gilded cage he was desperate to escape. We need to focus on the goal, Akeem said, trying to soften his tone. I came here to find love, not to indulge in luxury. If we're discovered, it could ruin everything. Semmi sighed heavily, his eyes downcast. I know. I just don't want to see you struggle, my prince. I want you to have the best life has to offer. The best life is one filled with authenticity, Akeem insisted, hoping to instill some conviction in Semmi's heart. I want Lisa to love me for me, not for what I can provide. Semmi looked at Akeem, his expression wavering between understanding and doubt. And what if she doesn't? What if you're just a temporary fling in her eyes? A prince pretending to be a commoner? Akeem felt a sting at Semmi's words, but he knew they came from a place of concern. That's a risk I'm willing to take. I can't hide who I am forever, but I need to show her my true self without the royal baggage. With a reluctant nod, Semmi folded the menu and set it aside. Okay. I'll try to keep the luxurious fantasies to a minimum. But you have to promise me something in return. Anything, Akeem replied, curious. Promise me that if things get too tough, you'll let me know. I don't want to see you hurt. I want to help, even if it means pushing you back to Zamunda. Akeem chuckled softly. You're too loyal for your own good, Semmi. I promise, if I feel overwhelmed, I'll tell you. But right now, I'm excited about where this journey is taking me. I don't want to go back just yet. The next morning, Akeem found himself in the midst of the bustling Queen streets, preparing to meet Lisa for a picnic in the park. His heart fluttered at the thought of seeing her, and he found himself daydreaming about their conversations, their shared laughter, and the way she challenged him to see the world differently. However, as he stepped outside, he saw Semmi at the bus stop, talking animatedly to a couple of local girls. The scene was innocent enough, but Akeem felt a rush of apprehension. He had seen this side of Semmi before, his attempts to return to the glitz and glam that had defined their previous lives. Semmi. Come on. Akeem called, striding over and pulling him away from the girls, who eyed Akeem with curiosity. What? I was just being friendly. Semmi protested, a hint of mischief in his voice. Friendly? Or trying to impress them with tales of luxury? Akeem shot back, lowering his voice to avoid drawing more attention. Semmi's expression turned defensive. I was just talking. Can't a poor exchange student have a bit of fun? A bit of fun could cost us our cover, Akeem reminded him firmly. We're here to find love and authenticity, not to showcase the riches of Zamunda. I need you to stay focused. The weight of Akeem's words hung in the air between them, and Semmi looked away, the light-heartedness of the moment evaporating. "You're right. I'll be more careful." As they rode the bus together, Akeem's heart raced at the thought of seeing Lisa. The excitement of their picnic filled his thoughts, and he momentarily forgot the tension with Semmi, but as they reached the park, the scent of fresh grass and blooming flowers washed over him, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to embrace this new chapter of his life, despite the challenges that lay ahead. Akeem wanted to prove to himself, to Semmi, and to Lisa that he could carve out a path of love that was uniquely his own. As they walked toward the park entrance, Akeem glanced at Semmi, who was now lost in thought. "You know, Semmi, I truly appreciate your support. I couldn't do this without you." Semmi looked up, his features softening. "Just promise me one thing, keep your heart open. If things don't go the way you hope, don't shut me out." "I promise," Akeem said sincerely, hoping his words could bridge the gap between them. "Now, let's go find some adventure." With a renewed sense of determination, they stepped into the park, ready to face whatever awaited them, one day closer to discovering the love that Akeem so desperately sought. The sun bathed Queens in a warm glow as Akeem and Semmi made their way to the park for another day of laughter and friendship with Lisa. Akeem's heart raced at the thought of seeing her, and he felt more alive than ever. However, as they approached their usual meeting spot, a sense of unease settled in his stomach. "Hey, is that?" Semmi began, squinting into the distance. Akeem followed Semmi's gaze and felt his heart drop. There, leaning casually against a sleek black car, was Daryl, Lisa's current boyfriend. He was everything Akeem had hoped to avoid: wealthy, arrogant, and all too aware of the power his status afforded him. "Let's go back," Akeem muttered under his breath, ready to turn away. "No way," Semmi replied, his eyes narrowing. "You can't let him intimidate you. You're here to find love, remember? You can't run away just because some rich guy is flexing his muscles." Akeem took a deep breath, straightening his posture. "You're right. I won't let him dictate my choices. But I have to stay true to myself. I can't compete with his wealth." As they approached, Daryl's gaze shifted to Akeem and Semmi, a smug smile spreading across his face. Well, if it isn't the two exchange students," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "I hope you're not bothering Lisa too much. She deserves better than this." "Daryl," Akeem said evenly, refusing to rise to the bait. "I'm just here to see Lisa. We have plans." "Plans? Like what?" "Sharing a bowl of ramen." Daryl laughed, crossing his arms. "Come on, man. She could have anyone. Why would she settle for a couple of wannabes pretending to be poor?" Lisa appeared behind Daryl, her face lighting up when she saw Akeem. "Akeem! Semmi," she called, rushing over to greet them. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Akeem felt his tension ease a little. "Hey, Lisa." Akeem replied, trying to keep his focus on her rather than the glaring presence of Daryl. "What's up, Daryl?" Lisa said, slightly annoyed at her boyfriend's dismissive tone. "I thought we were going to enjoy the picnic together." "Sure," "But it looks like you're entertaining your little friends," Darrow replied, glancing at Akeem with disdain. "Maybe they should know their place." Akeem could feel the heat rising in his chest, but he maintained his composure. "We're just here to enjoy each other's company. No need to make this into a competition," he said, keeping his tone calm. Darrow's expression darkened, but he shrugged it off. "Competition? You've got nothing to compete with, Akeem. I've got a yacht, a penthouse, and connections that can get her into the best places in the city. What do you have? A cheap apartment and fast food job." Lisa's eyes flickered with frustration as she stepped closer to Akeem. "Darrow, that's not fair. Akeem's here because he wants to be. You don't have to put him down to prove a point." "Exactly," Akeem interjected, his patience beginning to wear thin. "I'm not interested in proving anything to you. I'm just trying to get to know Lisa better." Darrow laughed again, this time with more venom. "Know her better? Or are you trying to win her over with your charm? That's rich. Do you really think a girl like Lisa would choose a life of struggle over the luxuries I can provide?" Akeem felt his heartbeat quicken. Lisa deserves to be with someone who respects her, not someone who throws money around like it's the answer to everything. There's more to life than material possessions. Darrow scoffed, waving his hand dismissively. "Sure, tell that to the world. I guess you wouldn't know what it's like to have real power or status. You're just a guy in a cheap suit playing dress-up." A sudden silence fell between them as Akeem considered Darrow's words. The arrogance radiating from the businessman was infuriating, yet Akeem refused to let it provoke him. He was here to find love, not to engage in petty squabbles. "Let's go, Lisa," Akeem said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "We don't need to waste our time here." Lisa hesitated, torn between her boyfriend's influence and her feelings for Akeem. "But Akeem—" "No," Akeem interrupted gently. "You should be with someone who values you for who you are, not what you can provide for them. I refuse to compete with someone who doesn't understand that." Darrow smirked, clearly enjoying the tension. "You'll see, Lisa. Akeem may have a pretty face, but he's not going to give you the life you deserve. Just remember that when the fun wears off." Akeem took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He didn't want to appear rattled in front of Lisa, but the sting of Darrow's words hung heavy in the air. As he turned to lead Lisa away, he glanced back at Semmi, who was watching with a mix of sympathy and concern. "Let's just go for that picnic," Akeem said, forcing a smile. "I know a great spot by the fountain." "Sure," Lisa said, but Akeem could see the conflict in her eyes. "But, Akeem, what if he's right? What if I'm not ready to give up the security he offers?" "Security?" Akeem asked, genuinely perplexed. "Is that what you value? Because if it is, then I understand. But I hope you'll also consider the kind of person you want by your side." As they walked away, Akeem's mind raced with thoughts of what had just transpired. The contrast between him and Darrow was becoming more evident. Where Darrow embodied arrogance and entitlement, Akeem sought humility in authenticity. The encounter had shaken him, but he refused to let it deter him from his quest, once they settled on a grassy hill under the shade of a large oak tree, Akeem spread out the blanket and pulled out their picnic basket. The fragrant aroma of homemade sandwiches filled the air, mingling with the distant sounds of laughter and music from the park. Akeem turned to Lisa, who had taken a seat beside him, her expression thoughtful. "Are you okay?" he asked, genuinely concerned. "Yeah, I hate how he treats you," Lisa admitted, her brows furrowed. "You don't deserve that. I've been with him for a while, but sometimes I feel like I'm just another trophy on his shelf." Akeem nodded, sensing the turmoil beneath her surface. "Then why stay with him? You deserve someone who respects you and treats you as an equal." "I don't know," she replied, looking down at her hands. "He's charming, and I do enjoy some of the things he introduces me to. But is that enough? I mean, it's comfortable, you know." "Comfortable isn't the same as fulfilling," Akeem said softly, hoping to encourage her to see the truth. "You deserve passion and respect, not just convenience." Lisa looked at Akeem, her eyes searching his for something she hadn't fully acknowledged before. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I need to think about what I really want." In that moment, Akeem felt a surge of hope. He had come to this bustling city in search of love, and now, seated under the vast sky with Lisa, he sensed a connection that ran deeper than mere attraction. The barriers he had erected around his heart began to crack as he realized that perhaps, just perhaps, love could flourish despite the challenges. As the afternoon sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the park, Akeem felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, including Daryl. After all, it was not just about winning Lisa's heart but also about demonstrating the power of authenticity in a world often overshadowed by wealth and status. A week had passed since the picnic, and Akeem felt like he was living in two worlds. By day, he worked alongside Semmi at the fast food restaurant, enduring comical misadventures while trying to maintain their cover. By night, he explored the vibrant streets of Queens with Lisa, each moment deepening his feelings for her. Yet, as much as he enjoyed their time together, the weight of his secret loomed larger with each passing day. It all began when Semmi, eager to infuse some glamour into their humble lives, suggested they throw a small party at their apartment. "Come on, Akeem. We can invite Lisa and her friends. It'll be fun." Semmi insisted, his enthusiasm infectious. "Just a little bit of luxury will help us blend in better." Against his better judgment, Akeem agreed, hoping the evening would showcase the charm and warmth of his new life. But as preparations unfolded, he couldn't shake the feeling that Semmi's desire for a taste of opulence would complicate things. The night of the party arrived, and Akeem watched as Semmi transformed their modest apartment into a vibrant gathering space. Colorful streamers adorned the walls, and the scent of homemade dishes wafted through the air. Akeem felt a mix of excitement and dread as guests began to arrive, including Lisa, who brought her friends along. "Wow, Akeem. This is amazing!" Lisa exclaimed as she stepped inside, her eyes wide with delight. "You really went all out." Akeem forced a smile, knowing full well that it was mostly Semmi's doing. "It's just a little gathering," he said, hoping to downplay the extravagance. As the night wore on, laughter and music filled the room, but Akeem noticed Lisa glancing around, her expression shifting from joy to curiosity. "So, Akeem, what's your family like?" one of Lisa's friends asked, casually sipping on a soda. Akeem hesitated, suddenly aware of the tightrope he was walking. They're just like any family," he stammered, feeling the pressure of his facade pressing down on him. "Very supportive." "Supportive, huh? They must be excited about your studies," Lisa's friend continued, clearly probing for more details. "Sure," Akeem replied, evading eye contact. "They want me to learn as much as I can." The atmosphere was light and lively until Semmi, trying to impress the guests, began sharing exaggerated tales of their life in Zamunda. Akeem here could have had a royal feast with just a snap of his fingers. "Back home, we feast on delicacies daily," Semmi proclaimed, laughing with a flourish. Akeem felt his heart race as he shot Semmi a warning glance, but it was too late. Lisa's eyes narrowed, her curiosity piqued. "Delicacies?" she echoed, raising an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Just the usual stuff," Akeem said, attempting to steer the conversation back to safer territory. "You know how it is, every country has its specialties." But Semmi was on a roll. "And let me tell you about the festivals we have. Oh, the music, the dancing. You've never seen anything like it." Akeem's stomach churned as Lisa's expression shifted from amusement to suspicion. He could sense the questions forming in her mind, and he hated that Semmi's attempts at humor were unraveling the trust he had built with her. Later, as the party continued, Akeem pulled Semmi aside in the kitchen. "What are you doing?" "You're going to blow our cover," he hissed, the urgency in his voice matching the panic rising within him. "Relax, Akeem." "I'm just having some fun," Semmi replied, shrugging off his friend's concern. "Besides, they're loving it." "No, you don't understand. Lisa is starting to suspect something isn't right. I can't lose her because of your antics," Akeem insisted, his voice low but firm. At that moment, Lisa entered the kitchen, her brow furrowed. "Hey, is everything okay?" she asked, her tone laced with concern. "You guys seem a little tense." Akeem swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his deception. "Just a little disagreement about the party," he lied, forcing a smile. "Right," Lisa said, crossing her arms. "But Akeem, you've said very little about your life. And Semmi just mentioned Zamunda. Are you guys really from there, or is that just a story?" Akeem's heart raced. He could feel the truth hovering just below the surface, eager to break free. Yet, the fear of losing Lisa's affection kept him rooted in his falsehood. "It's just a joke. You know how friends are," he said, a weak smile plastered on his face. "Are you sure?" Lisa pressed, her gaze piercing through him. "Because if there's something you want to tell me, you can trust me." A wave of guilt washed over Akeem as he searched her eyes. He felt a pull, a desire to be honest, to share his true self. But the fear of her reaction loomed larger than the desire for authenticity. "Lisa, he started, his voice trembling. But before he could continue, Semmi interrupted, bursting back into the kitchen. "Hey! The music is amazing. Come dance with us," he exclaimed, oblivious to the tension that had built between Akeem and Lisa. With a nod, Lisa turned away from Akeem, the moment of truth slipping through his fingers. Akeem felt his heart sink as he realized he was losing her trust, and it was all due to Semmi's well-meaning but reckless behavior. As the night wore on, Akeem couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in around him. He was trapped between the desire to be loved for who he truly was and the fear of rejection if he revealed the truth. The laughter and music faded into a dull roar in his ears, overshadowed by the growing uncertainty of what lay ahead. After the last guest departed and the apartment fell silent, Akeem sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. Semmi joined him, the remnants of the party still lingering in the air. "You okay?" Semmi asked, his tone more serious than before. "No, I'm not okay," Akeem replied, the frustration bubbling to the surface. "You don't get it, do you? Lisa is starting to see through our cover, and if I don't come clean soon, I could lose her." Semmi sighed, leaning back against the couch. "I didn't mean to draw attention to your royal past. I just wanted us to fit in." Akeem shook his head. "Fitting in shouldn't come at the cost of honesty. I have to decide whether to keep this up or risk everything to be real with her." The weight of the decision hung heavy between them, a silence enveloping the room as Akeem contemplated the path ahead. He knew he had to choose wisely. Would he have the courage to reveal his true self and risk the affection he had begun to cherish, or would he remain in the safety of his deception, all the while knowing that love built on lies could never truly flourish? As he lay in bed that night, Akeem felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, knowing that whatever choice he made would define not only his relationship with Lisa but also his own understanding of love, identity, and what it meant to truly belong. Akeem tossed and turned in his sleep, his mind racing with thoughts of Lisa and the monumental decision that loomed over him. With dawn breaking, he sat up in bed, determination coursing through him. He couldn't hide any longer. Love demanded honesty, and if Lisa was the woman he believed her to be, she deserved to know the truth. With a deep breath, Akeem prepared himself. He could only hope that his royal heritage wouldn't shatter the bond they had built. He glanced at Semmi, still fast asleep on the couch, blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing in Akeem's heart. He decided to confront his fear and reveal his identity. Later that day, Akeem invited Lisa to their apartment under the pretense of wanting to show her something special. As she arrived, her smile lit up the room, but Akeem sensed an underlying tension. They settled in the small living room, and Akeem's pulse quickened as he prepared to speak. "Lisa, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "I haven't been completely honest with you." Her expression shifted, curiosity blending with concern. "What do you mean, Akeem?" He inhaled deeply, gathering his thoughts. "I'm not just an exchange student. I'm Prince Akeem Jafar of Zamunda, the heir to the throne." The confession hung in the air, heavy and charged, as he searched her face for any sign of understanding. Lisa's eyes widened, and for a moment, silence enveloped them. "A prince?" she repeated, disbelief etched across her features. "You mean you've been lying to me this entire time?" "No, it wasn't lying. I just wanted to find love without my title overshadowing everything," Akeem pleaded, his heart racing as he struggled to articulate his feelings. "I thought if I came here as just Akeem, I could discover who I really am, who I could be with you. Do you understand how that feels?" Lisa's voice trembled, a mix of anger and hurt. "I thought I was getting to know you, the real you. But this changes everything. You've been playing a role the whole time." Akeem felt a pang of guilt stab through him. "I know, and I'm sorry. I didn't want to deceive you, but I was terrified of what you would think if you knew who I really was. I hoped we could be something real, something genuine." Lisa took a step back, her expression hardened. "Real? You call this real? I can't just forget that you've hidden this from me. How am I supposed to trust you now?" "I never wanted to hurt you," Akeem said desperately, his voice low. "I care about you more than anything. I thought we had something special. Please, let me explain. I wanted to find love on my own terms, to be with someone who loved me for who I am, not my title. I thought you could be that person." But Lisa shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "You've made me feel like a fool, Akeem. I can't believe I let you into my life like this. How can I trust you again?" The weight of her words crashed down on him, each syllable cutting deeper than the last. Akeem felt as though the ground had shifted beneath him, leaving him in a chasm of despair. "Lisa, please," he begged, taking a step closer. "I'm still the same person you met. I'm still Akeem." "Are you?" she challenged, her voice rising. "Can you even be yourself anymore? Everything we shared feels tainted now. I need time to think." With that, Lisa turned on her heel and left the apartment, her footsteps echoing in the silence that followed. Akeem stood frozen, feeling the sting of her betrayal clawing at his heart. He had chosen to be honest, but in doing so, he had risked everything he held dear. As he slumped onto the couch, Akeem felt the weight of regret settle over him like a heavy blanket. He questioned whether true love could survive this revelation. Could Lisa ever look at him the same way again? The vibrant joy of their time together faded, replaced by a gnawing sense of loss. "Man, what happened?" Semmi asked, groggily waking up from the commotion. The remnants of the party cluttered the room, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling within Akeem's heart. "Didn't it go well?" "It went terribly," Akeem replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "I told her everything, and now she's gone." Semmi's brow furrowed in concern. "You were honest with her. That's a good thing, right?" "Maybe," Akeem sighed, running a hand through his hair. "But I've lost her trust. She feels betrayed, and I can't blame her." Semmi sat up, his expression serious. "Look, Akeem, you took a risk. You wanted to be genuine, and that matters. If she truly cares about you, she'll come around. But what if she doesn't?" Akeem's voice broke, the weight of uncertainty pressing heavily on his chest. "What if I've ruined everything?" "You haven't ruined anything yet," Semmi insisted. "You need to give her time. People need space to process when things get complicated. Just be patient." Akeem nodded but couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. Every moment without Lisa felt like a loss, a missed opportunity for love that he had longed for. He glanced out the window at the busy streets of Queens, the city continuing its relentless pace as if nothing had changed. But for him, everything felt different. Days passed, and Akeem found himself consumed by thoughts of Lisa. Each moment stretched into eternity, filled with silence and unanswered questions. He wandered through the bustling streets, lost in a fog of doubt. Did he dare hope for her return, or had his choices irrevocably changed their fate? On the fifth day, his phone buzzed, and Akeem's heart leaped at the sight of Lisa's name flashing across the screen. He hesitated, his fingers hovering over the screen, fear and hope battling within him. With a deep breath, he answered the call. "Hello?" he said, his voice cautious yet filled with longing. "Akeem, it's me." Lisa's voice came through, soft and uncertain. "Can we talk?" The flood of relief that washed over him was nearly overwhelming. "Yes, of course. Where are you?" "I'd like to meet at the park," she replied, her tone still hesitant. "I need to talk about everything." Akeem's heart raced as he made his way to the park, anticipation mingled with anxiety. He arrived early, pacing beneath the shade of a tree, replaying their last encounter in his mind. What would she say? Would she give him a chance to explain, or was this the final goodbye? When Lisa finally arrived, her expression was unreadable. She approached slowly, her eyes searching his face for answers. Akeem took a deep breath, ready to face whatever consequences awaited him. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "I needed some time to think," Lisa began, her gaze fixed on the ground. "What you told me, it was shocking. I didn't know how to process it at first." "I understand," Akeem replied, his heart pounding. "But I never meant to hurt you. You have to know that my feelings for you are real." Lisa looked up, meeting his gaze for the first time since their fight. "I want to believe that, Akeem. But trust is hard to rebuild. I felt so foolish for falling for someone who had such a big secret." "I know, and I'm so sorry," he said, taking a step closer. "I thought by hiding my title, I could find love without all the expectations that come with it. But I realize now that honesty is the only way forward." Lisa sighed, her expression softening. "I get why you did it. It's just hard for me to reconcile who you are now with who I thought you were. I need to know if we can move past this." Akeem's heart raced as he searched her eyes, desperate to find a glimmer of hope. "I want to make it right. I want to show you who I am beyond the prince. You deserve nothing less than the truth, Lisa." She nodded slowly, her gaze steady but cautious. "Okay. Let's take it one step at a time. I want to give us a chance, but it's going to take time for me to trust you again." Akeem's heart soared at her words, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "I'll do whatever it takes, Lisa. I promise to be honest and open with you from now on. You mean everything to me." As they stood together in the park, Akeem felt the shadows of doubt begin to lift. Love was a complicated journey, filled with twists and turns, but perhaps they could navigate it together. The path ahead would be challenging, but he was willing to fight for the chance to show Lisa that true love could prevail, even in the wake of crisis. The streets of New York City buzzed with life, but inside Akeem's modest apartment, tension thickened the air. Despite the fragile reconciliation with Lisa, Akeem felt the weight of impending change hanging over him like a storm cloud. He had barely settled back into a rhythm with her when the news struck like lightning. His parents were on their way to America. When King Jaffe and Queen Aeolian arrived at the apartment, their presence filled the small space with a regal air that contrasted sharply with its humble decor. The room seemed to shrink under the weight of their expectations. Akeem felt a lump in his throat as he faced them, their expressions a mix of concern and authority. "Akeem, we've traveled halfway across the world because we need to discuss your future," King Jaffe began, his voice commanding yet tinged with a father's worry. "You are to return to Zamunda immediately and fulfill your royal duty by marrying your betrothed." Akeem's heart sank. The arranged marriage he had tried to escape was now thrust back into his life like an unwelcome shadow. "Father, no, son, listen," Queen Aeolian interjected, her tone softer yet firm. "We understand that you've been through a lot, but this is not merely a personal matter. It's about the kingdom and our legacy." Akeem felt a rush of frustration. "But I don't want to marry someone I've never met. I want to choose my own path, to find love on my own terms." The tension in the room grew palpable as the king's brows furrowed. "This is about duty, Akeem. Your position as the heir is not just about you, it's about the future of Zamunda. We have obligations to our people, and they expect you to take your rightful place." Akeem glanced at Semmi, who stood to the side, his eyes wide with concern. He felt a mix of anger and desperation bubbling inside him. "And what about my happiness? What about my choice? I've found someone special here, someone who sees me for who I truly am, not as a prince or a title. Do you think love can flourish without the support of a royal lineage?" King Jaffe retorted, his voice rising. "You were raised to understand that being a ruler means making sacrifices for the greater good. We have arranged a marriage that will strengthen alliances with other kingdoms." "You don't understand," Akeem argued, his voice growing heated. "Love is not a business transaction. It's not just about alliances and politics, it's about genuine connection and understanding. I can't just abandon what I've found here for a duty that feels so hollow." The clash between royal responsibilities and Akeem's personal desires intensified, the tension hanging thick in the air. He felt torn, caught in a relentless tug-of-war between the life expected of him and the love he longed to embrace. "I can't go back to Zamunda knowing I'll be unhappy. I can't live a life dictated by royal traditions that don't reflect who I am." King Jaffe's expression softened slightly, but the weight of his words remained. "Akeem, you are a prince first and foremost. You must think about what is best for Zamunda. We have sacrificed so much for you to have a future, and you cannot throw it away for a fleeting romance." Akeem's mind raced, memories of Lisa flooding back. Her laughter, her intelligence, and her unwavering spirit filled him with warmth. He thought of how she believed in him, how she encouraged him to be authentic. "I'm not throwing it away, Father. I'm fighting for something real." I can't marry someone I don't know, and I refuse to spend my life in a gilded cage. A moment of silence passed as his parents exchanged worried glances, the weight of their expectations heavy in the air. Finally, Queen Aeolian spoke softly, "Akeem, we just want what's best for you. We've always trusted your judgment, but this is a matter of great importance." "I understand that," Akeem replied, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "But if I go back and marry someone just to fulfill my duty, I'll always wonder what could have been. I need to know if Lisa and I can truly make this work. Isn't that worth fighting for?" King Jaffe sighed, the lines of worry deepening on his forehead. "What you're asking for is a lot to consider. You're playing with the future of our kingdom." "I know," Akeem said, his resolve firming. "But I want to forge my own path. I will be a better king if I'm happy. If I'm not allowed to pursue this love, then I'm not sure I can ever truly fulfill my role as your successor." The room fell silent once more, the gravity of Akeem's words hanging in the air. Finally, Semmi, who had been quietly observing the tense exchange, stepped forward. "Your Majesties, Akeem's right. I've seen him grow into a man who values authenticity and connection. He needs to find his own happiness, and in doing so, he may very well become a better leader for Zamunda." King Jaffe and Queen Aeolian exchanged glances, their expressions softening slightly. "You speak as if you've known him forever, Semmi," the king noted, his voice quieter now. "I have," Semmi replied earnestly. "He's more than a prince to me, he's my friend. And what I've learned from being here is that sometimes the heart knows what it needs, even when the mind tries to impose rules." Akeem's heart raced, emboldened by Semmi's words. Perhaps, just perhaps, his parents could be swayed. "Please, give me a chance to prove that love can triumph. Allow me to pursue Lisa and see where it leads before making any decisions about my future." The king and queen exchanged uncertain looks, the tension slowly dissipating as they processed their son's plea. "Akeem," Queen Aeolian said softly, "we love you, and we want you to be happy. But understand that you must tread carefully. This isn't just about you, there are many lives at stake." "I know, mother," Akeem replied, his voice steady. "But I believe love can make me stronger. I promise to honor my duties while also following my heart." King Jaffe sighed deeply, the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Very well. We will allow you a grace period to pursue this, love. But know that the time is limited, and you must ultimately return home to fulfill your responsibilities." Akeem's heart soared at the possibility. "Thank you. I won't let you down. I'll show you that this love is worth pursuing." As his parents exchanged a final, hesitant look, Akeem felt a glimmer of hope igniting within him. He was determined to prove that true love could flourish amidst the pressures of royalty, and he was ready to fight for Lisa with everything he had. The clash of worlds had only fueled his resolve, and as he looked at his parents, he felt ready to embrace the challenge ahead. "Now go," King Jaffe said, his tone softer, a hint of pride flickering in his eyes. "Follow your heart, Akeem. But remember, it's a double-edged sword." As they left the apartment, Akeem's heart raced with anticipation. He was ready to seize the day, to fight for the love he had found in the heart of queens. With Lisa by his side, he believed they could overcome any obstacle, including the looming shadow of royal duty that threatened to pull him away from everything he cherished. The morning sun streamed through the window of Akeem and Semmi's modest apartment, illuminating the lingering tension from the night before. Akeem stood by the window, looking out at the bustling streets of Queens, his mind racing with thoughts of Lisa and the uncertainty of their relationship. After revealing his true identity, he felt both exhilarated and vulnerable, haunted by the consequences of his actions. Semmi, still grappling with the aftermath of Akeem's revelation, noticed the weight of disappointment and despair on his friend's face. He knew that Akeem's feelings for Lisa ran deep, and he had to do something to help mend the situation. Akeem had taken a gamble on love, and it was time for Semmi to step up and redeem himself for his earlier missteps. "Hey, Akeem," Semmi said, attempting to break the silence. "We need to talk." Akeem turned away from the window, surprised. "What is it, Semmi? I don't know how to fix this. I've messed everything up." Semmi stepped closer, determination shining in his eyes. "You haven't messed everything up yet. We still have a chance. But first, we need to get Lisa to understand how you really feel. I know I've been a distraction, but I'm ready to make things right." Akeem raised an eyebrow, curious. "What do you have in mind?" "I'll arrange a meeting between the two of you," Semmi said, his voice growing enthusiastic. "But first, you need to apologize. A real apology, one that shows her how much you care." Akeem nodded, feeling the spark of hope rekindling within him. "You think she'll listen to me after everything?" "Trust me," Semmi replied confidently. "You just need to show her how much you're willing to fight for her. She deserves to see your sincerity." Semmi sprang into action, using every resource he had to set up the perfect opportunity for Akeem to express his feelings. He contacted Lisa and convinced her to meet them at a local park, assuring her that Akeem wanted to make things right. On the day of the meeting, Akeem paced nervously at the park entrance, his heart racing with anticipation. He wore a simple outfit, a stark contrast to the elaborate royal attire he was accustomed to. Semmi stood beside him, offering words of encouragement. "You've got this, Akeem. Just be honest and speak from your heart." As they awaited Lisa's arrival, Akeem's mind filled with doubts. What if she didn't forgive him? What if she chose Daryl instead? But he reminded himself of the love he felt for her, the genuine connection that had blossomed amidst the chaos of their lives. He had to fight for that love. Finally, Lisa arrived, her expression a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. Akeem's breath caught in his throat as he saw her. She was even more beautiful than he remembered, and the sight of her stirred emotions within him. "Hey, Lisa," Semmi said, trying to break the tension. "Thanks for coming." "Yeah, I guess I wanted to hear what Akeem has to say," she replied, crossing her arms defensively. Akeem took a deep breath, stepping forward. "Lisa, thank you for meeting us. I know I've hurt you, and I'm truly sorry for not being honest from the beginning." Lisa met his gaze, her eyes searching his face for sincerity. "You lied to me, Akeem. You hid who you really are." How can I trust you now? I know, Akeem replied, his voice earnest. But please understand that my feelings for you are real. The moment I met you, I felt something I never thought I could experience. I was afraid of how you'd react if you knew I was a prince. I wanted to be seen as just Akeem, the man who admires your spirit, not just the title I carry. A flicker of vulnerability crossed Lisa's face as she considered his words. It's just. I don't know if I can just forget what you did. I don't expect you to, Akeem said, desperation lacing his tone. But I'm here now, willing to fight for you. I want to show you that love can flourish, even amidst our differences. You deserve someone who can be honest with you. Someone who will stand by you through thick and thin. I'm willing to be that person. Semmi, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, stepped back to give Akeem the spotlight. It was time for his friend to take the leap. Lisa, if you want to hear Akeem's heart, now is the time. He's willing to lay it all on the line. Akeem took a step closer, his heart pounding in his chest. I know I've made mistakes, but I believe we can build something beautiful together if you'll give me the chance. I choose you, Lisa. No titles, no royal obligations, just you and me. He dropped to one knee, a gesture that caught Lisa off guard. I'm not asking you to marry me, but I am asking you to consider what we could have together. I'm offering you a choice, whether you want to explore this love that we share, without the constraints of my title. I want you to know that I am not just a prince, I am Akeem, a man who loves you deeply. The world around them faded, and all that existed was the weight of Akeem's heartfelt declaration. Lisa stood frozen, her expression shifting between shock and disbelief. Akeem. I need time to think. Akeem nodded, understanding the magnitude of what he had laid before her. Take all the time you need. I will wait for you, no matter how long it takes. I just hope you'll see that our love is worth fighting for. As Lisa turned to leave, Semmi exchanged a proud glance with Akeem. He could see the determination in his friend's eyes, the spark of hope ignited by the risk he had taken. Good job, Akeem, Semmi said quietly, clapping him on the shoulder. You did it. No matter what happens next, you've shown her your true self. Akeem stood up, a sense of relief washing over him. He had made his choice, not just to reveal his feelings but to embrace the path of love that lay ahead. Whatever the outcome, he was ready to face it, because for the first time, he felt truly alive. The days turned into a blur as Lisa processed Akeem's heartfelt declaration. Each moment felt heavy with the weight of her emotions, a tumultuous mix of confusion, longing, and fear. She had spent countless hours in her favorite cafe, staring out the window and reflecting on the choices that lay ahead. The restaurant where she worked, the familiar bustle of customers and the sizzle of the fryers provided little comfort. Lisa found it hard to focus on anything other than Akeem's words echoing in her mind, I choose you. His sincerity had touched her deeply, yet the implications of his royal status loomed large, casting a shadow over her heart. She couldn't shake the feeling of being caught in a whirlwind. Akeem was charming and genuine, but what did a life with him truly mean? Could she embrace the world of royalty that came with him? The glamorous parties, the media scrutiny, the never-ending expectations of being a princess? Would she have to sacrifice her dreams and ambitions for a life she had never envisioned for herself? In the midst of her turmoil, Lisa sought refuge in her journal, pouring her heart onto the pages. She wrote about her fears of losing herself in a royal life, the dreams she had nurtured since childhood, and her love for Akeem that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Meanwhile, Akeem waited anxiously for her decision, his heart in a constant state of suspense. He spent his days wandering the streets of Queens, searching for solace in the vibrant community that had once felt so foreign. The thought of returning to Zamunda without Lisa was unbearable, yet he knew he had to respect her need for time and the quiet moments. He imagined a future with her, long walks through the park, laughter shared over meals, and the simple joy of being together without the weight of crowns and expectations. The thought of giving up his royal title for love had crossed his mind more than once. He would gladly abandon the throne if it meant he could be with Lisa. She was worth every sacrifice. One evening, as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Akeem found himself at the park where he had first confessed his feelings. He sat on a bench, heart racing with anticipation. He thought about the sacrifices his parents had made for their love, the way they had navigated the complexities of royalty and romance. Their union had stood the test of time, and Akeem longed for that same connection with Lisa. Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket. His heart leaped as he saw Lisa's name flash across the screen. With trembling hands, he answered, "Hello." "Akeem," Lisa's voice was soft but resolute. "Can we meet? I've thought a lot about what you said." The adrenaline surged through Akeem as he hurried to the designated spot. Every step felt like a leap of faith, each moment intensifying the mix of hope and anxiety in his chest. When he arrived, Lisa was already there, her expression unreadable. "Hey," she greeted, her voice steady yet tinged with emotion. "Hi, Lisa," he replied, stepping closer, wanting to gauge her feelings. "Thank you for coming." Lisa took a deep breath, her gaze drifting to the park around them, as if seeking comfort in its familiar surroundings. "I've been thinking a lot about us. About your life and mine." Akeem nodded, his heart pounding in his ears. "And I care about you, Akeem," she said, her eyes locking onto his. "But your world is so different from mine. I'm just a girl from Queens, and you're a prince. I worry about what it would mean for us, what sacrifices I'd have to make. I don't want to lose myself in a world I don't belong to." Akeem's breath hitched at her words, realizing the struggle she faced. "I understand your fears. But I want you to know that I would never ask you to sacrifice who you are. I've seen the way you light up a room with your spirit and kindness. I don't want to change you, I want to be with you as you are." Lisa's expression softened, but the conflict remained in her eyes. "What if I can't fit into that life? What if I'm not enough for you in that world?" "You are more than enough," Akeem declared, stepping closer. "I would give it all up for you, Lisa. The title, the expectations, it wouldn't matter if I could be with you. You are the one I choose." The silence hung heavily between them, filled with unspoken words and the weight of potential futures. Lisa's heart raced, torn between the life she had always known and the uncertain allure of love. "I don't want to hold you back, Akeem," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "But I can't deny my feelings for you. I've never felt this way about anyone." Akeem reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Then let's figure this out together. Love isn't about titles or kingdoms, it's about two people willing to navigate life's challenges side by side. I'm willing to fight for us, if you are." With a heavy heart, Lisa contemplated her choice. The allure of royal life, the glamour, the expectations, could she truly step into that world without losing herself? But then she thought of Akeem, of the connection they shared, the love that had blossomed amidst the chaos. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the park, Lisa felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. "Akeem, I want to choose love too. But can we make it work?" Akeem's eyes sparkled with joy as he squeezed her hand. "We will make it work. Together." In that moment, Lisa made her choice, stepping into a future filled with uncertainty but also love and possibility. With Akeem by her side, she was ready to embrace the adventure ahead, wherever it might lead. As the first light of dawn broke through the curtains of her small apartment, Lisa awoke with a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in weeks. The events of the past few days had led her to a monumental decision: she would embrace Akeem's love, letting go of her fears and doubts. The thought of him brought warmth to her heart, and the connection they shared was too profound to ignore. After a quick breakfast and a nervous flutter in her stomach, Lisa made her way to the park where they had shared their first true conversation. She felt as if she were stepping into a new chapter of her life, one filled with hope, love, and the promise of adventure. As she arrived, she spotted Akeem sitting on a bench, his gaze lost in thought as he watched the city wake up around him. "Hey," she called out, her voice breaking the serene morning air. Akeem looked up, his face lighting up with a smile that made her heart skip a beat. "Lisa, you came." Taking a seat next to him, Lisa felt a wave of emotion wash over her. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice steady yet soft. "I want to be with you, Akeem. I want to embrace what we have, no matter where it leads us." Akeem's eyes sparkled with joy, and he took her hands in his. "Are you sure? This is not just a fleeting thought, it's a life-altering decision." "I'm sure," Lisa affirmed, feeling the weight of her words. "You've shown me a love that is genuine, and I want to explore it. I want to face the challenges together, as partners." He grinned, the tension in his shoulders releasing as he pulled her into a warm embrace. "You make me the happiest man in the world, Lisa. I will cherish you and our love every day of my life." Meanwhile, across the city, King Jaffe and Queen Aeolian sat in their lavish hotel room, grappling with their own emotions. The news of Akeem's decision to pursue a life of love over royal duty had reached them through the grapevine, and they had traveled to New York, determined to confront their son. "Can we truly allow this?" Queen Aeolian asked, worry etched on her face. "What will the kingdom say? He's our heir." King Jaffe sighed, the lines on his forehead deepening as he pondered their son's happiness. "Our duty as parents is to ensure our son is fulfilled. Akeem is a kind man, He deserves to choose his path, even if it diverges from tradition. But a prince marrying a commoner? It's scandalous, she exclaimed, her voice rising with frustration. Scandalous, perhaps, Jaffe replied, his tone resolute. But if Akeem believes this is true love, then we should support him. We must learn to adapt to the times, my dear. The world is changing, and so must we. As the sun set, casting a golden hue over New York City, the royal couple made their way to the park where Akeem and Lisa had first confessed their feelings. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation as they spotted their son laughing with Lisa. Akeem. King Jaffe called out, drawing the young couple's attention. Lisa felt a flutter of nerves, but Akeem squeezed her hand reassuringly, a silent promise that they would face this together. They approached the royals, and Akeem stood tall, ready to defend his choices. Father, mother, he began. Before he could continue, Queen Aeolian stepped forward, her eyes softened with understanding. Akeem, we've come to talk. Is it about Lisa? He asked, anxiety creeping into his voice. Yes, Jaffe replied, glancing at Lisa with a nod of respect. We understand that you wish to follow your heart. Lisa's heart raced, bracing for the weight of their judgment. We want you to be happy, my son, Jaffe continued. If this young woman is what brings you joy, then we must accept it. After all, love knows no boundaries, even those of royalty. Akeem's breath caught in his throat as he processed his father's words. You truly mean that? Of course, Aeolian added, her tone warm yet firm. We've seen how you've changed since meeting Lisa. Your happiness is what matters most. If you wish to marry for love, we will support you. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Akeem stepped closer to Lisa, taking her hand in his. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. This means everything to me. The news of Akeem and Lisa's impending union spread like wildfire through Queens. The local community, who had witnessed their courtship from the sidelines, erupted in excitement and celebration. Lisa's friends rallied together, organizing a gathering to honor the couple and their love story. On the day of the celebration, the park transformed into a vibrant scene filled with balloons, banners, and the mouth-watering aroma of various cuisines from around the world. The community came together, setting aside differences to celebrate the unlikely romance between a prince and a girl from Queens. As Lisa and Akeem arrived, hand in hand, they were met with cheers and applause. The warmth of the crowd surrounded them, a testament to the love and acceptance they had found in this bustling city. Akeem looked around in awe, feeling an overwhelming sense of belonging. I never imagined my life would lead me here, he whispered to Lisa, his eyes shining with happiness. Neither did I, she replied, leaning into him. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. The festivities began with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt speeches from friends and family. Lisa's father shared stories of her childhood, filling the air with humor and pride, while Akeem's parents offered their blessing, recognizing the love that had brought them together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a magical glow over the park, Akeem and Lisa took to the makeshift stage. Akeem spoke to the crowd, his voice steady and filled with conviction. Thank you all for embracing our love. We may come from different worlds, but together, we can create a beautiful future. This is just the beginning of our story." The crowd erupted in applause, and Lisa felt her heart swell with pride. In that moment, surrounded by their friends and community, they understood that love had the power to transcend boundaries, forge new paths, and create a future filled with endless possibilities. As the stars twinkled overhead, Lisa and Akeem shared a kiss under the moonlight, sealing their promise of love and commitment to each other. Together, they would navigate the adventures ahead, hand in hand, ready to embrace whatever challenges and joys life had in store for them. It was a new beginning, and they were ready to write their own happily ever after. As the royal jet touched down on the sun-kissed tarmac of Zamunda, a flurry of emotions surged through Akeem. The lush greenery and golden landscapes stretched before him, a vivid reminder of his roots. Beside him, Lisa gazed out the window, her eyes wide with awe and excitement. They had exchanged a bustling New York for the tranquil beauty of his homeland, but now, they were stepping into a new adventure together. The moment they disembarked, they were greeted by a grand reception. King Jaffe and Queen Aeolian stood at the foot of the stairs, their expressions a mix of pride and joy. The royal family welcomed Akeem and Lisa back with open arms, their love evident in the warmth of their embrace. Akeem. Lisa. King Jaffe boomed, his voice carrying the weight of authority softened by affection. "Welcome home." Lisa felt the intensity of their gaze as they turned to her. She held her breath, a mix of anticipation and nerves dancing in her stomach. Akeem squeezed her hand gently, offering reassurance. "Mother, father," Akeem said, his voice steady, "this is Lisa, my beloved." "It is a pleasure to finally meet you, Lisa," Queen Aeolian said, her tone graceful. "We have heard so much about you." As they moved through the royal palace, a magnificent structure adorned with gold and intricate carvings, Lisa couldn't help but feel the weight of her new role. She had always admired the elegance of the royal court from afar, but now she would be a part of it. The grand hallways echoed with history, and the portraits of past kings and queens seemed to watch her with curiosity. Akeem led her into the lavish throne room, where the grandeur of Zamunda unfolded in its entirety. Gold leaf accents gleamed under the chandeliers, and the throne itself was a symbol of the power and responsibility that lay ahead. "Your Highnesses," a voice called out, drawing Lisa's attention. It was the royal advisor, an older gentleman named Sir Bantu, who bowed deeply before them. "Welcome back, Prince Akeem. And welcome to Zamunda, future Queen Lisa." Lisa felt a surge of heat rise to her cheeks at the title, still adjusting to the magnitude of what it meant. "Thank you, Sir Bantu. It's an honor to be here. Your training as a queen will begin shortly," he continued, his tone serious. "There are many customs and traditions to learn, and we wish to prepare you for your role alongside Prince Akeem." As the days turned into weeks, Lisa immersed herself in her royal duties, attending council meetings, learning about the customs and traditions of Zamunda, and understanding the responsibilities that came with being a member of the royal family. Each day presented new challenges and opportunities, and she quickly learned that being a queen was not just about wearing crowns and attending banquets, it was about serving the people and standing by her husband's side. Yet, amidst the whirlwind of royal life, the couple faced their own challenges. Akeem was caught between the duties of the throne and his desire to be present for Lisa as she navigated her new role. He found himself torn between attending important meetings and spending quality time with her, wanting to support her as she adapted to her new life. One evening, after a long day filled with obligations, Akeem returned to their chambers to find Lisa poring over a stack of documents. "Hey," he said softly, leaning against the doorframe. "You're working too hard. Let's take a break." She looked up, a tired smile crossing her face. "I know, but there's so much to learn. I want to be the best queen I can be for Zamunda and for you." He stepped inside, wrapping his arms around her waist and drawing her close. "You are already doing wonderfully. But remember, it's okay to lean on me. We are in this together." Lisa rested her head against his shoulder, the comfort of his embrace easing her worries. "I just want to make you proud and prove that I can do this." "You don't have to prove anything to me," Akeem replied, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. "You are enough just as you are. And I love you for it." As they settled into their new life, the couple faced the complexities of balancing love and royal duties. Lisa found herself pulled in different directions, often torn between attending ceremonial events and spending intimate moments with Akeem. They would sneak away for late-night walks under the stars, reminiscing about their time in Queens and the adventures that lay ahead. However, the pressure of royal life continued to mount. One afternoon, during a formal gathering, Lisa overheard whispers among the court members, expressing doubt about her ability to fulfill her role as queen. The feeling of inadequacy washed over her, and she turned to Akeem, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. "Do you think they're right?" she asked quietly. "Am I really fit to be queen?" Akeem's expression softened as he cupped her face in his hands. "They do not know you as I do. You are strong, compassionate, and have already won the hearts of our people. Trust in yourself, Lisa." "But what if I fail?" she admitted, the vulnerability in her voice palpable. "You will not fail," Akeem assured her, his gaze steady and reassuring. "We will face this together. I will always be by your side, no matter the challenges." As the days passed, Lisa began to find her footing within the royal court. She engaged with the people of Zamunda, listening to their concerns and offering support wherever she could. Her kindness and dedication began to win over the hearts of the citizens, slowly dispelling any doubts about her capabilities. One day, during a community outreach event, Lisa visited a local school, interacting with the children and learning about their dreams and aspirations. Their laughter and joy reignited her passion for her new role, reminding her of the impact she could make. Upon returning home, she excitedly shared her experiences with Akeem. "Today was amazing. The children were so bright and full of hope. I felt like I was making a difference." Akeem beamed with pride. "I knew you would find your way. You have a gift for connecting with others, and Zamunda needs that now more than ever." As they embraced, a sense of purpose washed over them. They understood that their love, intertwined with their responsibilities, could shape a brighter future for Zamunda. Together, they would navigate the challenges ahead, committed to creating a harmonious balance between love and duty. As the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Akeem and Lisa stood on the balcony of their palace, hand in hand. They gazed out over the kingdom, knowing that while the journey ahead would be filled with obstacles, their love would guide them through, illuminating their path toward a new beginning together. As the sun rose over the kingdom of Zamunda, casting a golden hue across the vast landscapes, Akeem and Lisa sat at their breakfast table, discussing their vision for the future. The air was filled with the scent of fresh fruits and spices, a delightful reminder of their cultural heritage. "I've been thinking," Akeem said, leaning forward, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Our traditions are important, but we should also adapt them to reflect the modern world. Zamunda needs to evolve if we want to prepare our people for the future." Lisa nodded, her enthusiasm evident. "Absolutely. We could start by encouraging education and entrepreneurship among the youth. Empowering them will help create a stronger foundation for our kingdom." Akeem smiled at her passion, realizing how much she had grown in her role. "We should also host forums and town hall meetings, allowing citizens to voice their ideas and concerns. Everyone should feel involved in shaping Zamunda's future." The couple worked tirelessly over the next few weeks, bringing together advisors and citizens to discuss ways to modernize the kingdom. They organized workshops focused on education, sustainability, and technology, inviting experts from various fields to share their knowledge. As they engaged with their community, they found their love deepening, rooted in a shared purpose and mutual respect. One afternoon, during a community forum, Lisa stood before a crowd of eager faces. Her confidence radiated as she spoke passionately about their plans for the kingdom. "Together, we can create opportunities for everyone. Zamunda is not just a place of tradition, it's a place of growth and innovation." The crowd erupted in applause, and Akeem felt a surge of pride watching Lisa connect with their people. He knew that her vision would inspire others, igniting a desire for change. In the following months, Akeem and Lisa rolled out programs that promoted education, women's empowerment, and economic growth. The kingdom began to flourish as fresh perspectives and ideas took root. Akeem and Lisa made it a point to visit different villages and regions, listening to the needs of their citizens and celebrating the diversity of their culture. Yet, with progress came challenges. Not everyone was ready to embrace change, and some traditionalists voiced their concerns. During one particularly heated council meeting, an elder spoke out against the modernization efforts. "You are turning your back on our heritage," he exclaimed, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Our traditions have sustained us for generations. Why should we abandon them?" Akeem stood, his heart pounding as he prepared to respond. "We are not abandoning our traditions, we are enhancing them. Our history is a treasure, but we must not let it hinder our progress. We can honor our past while building a better future together." Lisa joined him, her voice steady and compassionate. "We can incorporate our traditions into the new practices, creating a blend that respects our roots while nurturing our growth. We can honor our ancestors while adapting to the needs of our people." The elder's expression softened, and after a moment, he nodded slowly. "You speak with wisdom. Perhaps there is a way to merge the old with the new." As the discussions continued, Akeem and Lisa found themselves standing side by side, their love serving as a beacon of hope and unity. They knew that together, they could bridge the gap between tradition and innovation, fostering a sense of community and shared purpose. Months turned into years, and Zamunda thrived under Akeem and Lisa's reign. Their efforts transformed the kingdom into a place where tradition coexisted harmoniously with modern ideals. The people flourished, empowered by education and opportunity, and a renewed sense of pride spread throughout the land. One evening, as Akeem and Lisa strolled through the royal gardens, the vibrant colors of flowers blooming around them, they reflected on their journey. "I never imagined how rewarding it would be to work alongside you for the good of our kingdom," Lisa said, her eyes sparkling with joy. "Neither did I," Akeem admitted, taking her hand in his. "Our love has been the driving force behind this transformation. Together, we can create a legacy that honors our past while paving the way for future generations." As they paused beneath the starlit sky, Akeem pulled Lisa closer, looking into her eyes with unwavering affection. "You have made me a better leader and a better man. I am grateful every day for your love and support." Lisa smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. "And I am grateful for yours. Together, we will ensure that Zamunda remains a place of hope, love, and shared purpose for years to come." With that, they turned to face the kingdom they had come to cherish, their hearts intertwined in a promise of dedication and love. They looked toward the horizon, ready to embrace whatever the future held, united in their mission to inspire and uplift their people. The stars twinkled above, a reflection of the dreams and aspirations they held for Zamunda, a legacy of love, tradition, and progress, destined to shine brightly for generations to come.